Okay, so let's say that you have got a parabola like this. Y is equal to negative absolute value of 2x minus 14, and then absolute value squared plus 3. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is find your vertex. I wondered if I'd get one of these markers that don't work at all as a brick. Alright, find your vertex. Okay, and to find our vertex, in this case, seeing as we've got an absolute value, we have to figure out where everything inside of the absolute value is equal to 0. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do a little bit of work, and I'm going to say 2x minus 14 is equal to 0. Okay, and some people could probably tell off the top of their head, so x is going to be equal to 7, but I'm going to show you the work behind it that you can do. You can add 14 to both sides. Okay, that's going to cancel out. All right, and now we're left with 2x is equal to 14. Okay, so 2x is equal to 14. Well, the next thing we do, we just divide by 2, and we get x is equal to 7. All right. Okay, so now we know that we have to input 7 for our vertex. Okay, I'm going to erase a little bit of work. Vertex, we get 7, whatever the next number is. Okay, so we input all of that. Well, if we know this comes out to be equal to 0, then 0 squared is still 0, negative 0 is still 0, plus 3. We know that our vertex is going to be at 7, 3. All right, pretty easy to tell. Pretty easy to figure that one out. All right, second thing that we want to do is we want to get our y-intercept. Our y-intercept, okay? And so it's just like any other sort of y-intercept. The way that you're going to find a y-intercept, you just input 0, okay? So we know the first coordinate is going to be 0, comma, something. So let's come over here, let's do a little bit of work. And figure out what our y value is going to be if we input 0. Okay, so let's say y is equal to negative absolute value of 2 times 0. Not sure what 2 times 0 is. Might struggle a little bit there. Minus 14. Okay, and then we're going to say squared plus 3. So 2 times 0, that's going to get us 0. We've got a minus 14. Well, that's just going to be negative 14. And then we've got a negative 14 squared plus 3. Okay, so this y-intercept is going to be way off of our graph as far as what we want to actually graph out. This is going to be something that if we had endless amount of paper, we could graph it, but we're not going to deal with it. So we go to our calculator and we say negative 14, okay, absolute value of that is just 14. So let's say 14 times 14 because we got 14 squared. Okay, that's going to be 196. And seeing as we've got this minus symbol out in front, I'm going to say y is equal to negative 196 plus 3. Okay, and now I've got this 196. I'm going to add 3 to the negative 196, and I get a negative 193. Okay, so our y-intercept is going to be at 0, comma, negative 193. All right, and the last thing I want to do is I just want to graph. All right, so let's run through this graph. I'll make myself a table, and we'll get going. My table that I make might be a little bit too big, but we're going to make one with 7 values anyways. And no, let's only make one with, let's make one with 5 values. 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to stick my vertex at the very middle of this. Okay, so I input 7 for my x value. I know that I get an output of 3 values. So now these next two spaces over in each direction are going to be what I call mirror values. Okay, it's just like a mirror image of it, since that vertex cuts right down the center of our parabola. Okay, so we input 6, we input 5 over here, input 8, input 9. Okay, and now we're trying to figure out what all this is going to come out to be equal to. So let's input that 6, figure out what we need. So I'm going to say y is equal to negative absolute value of 2 times 6 minus 14 squared. And then we're going to say plus 3. All right, 2 times 6 is going to get me 12. 12 minus 14 is going to get me a negative 2. Okay, negative 2. And then we're going to say squared plus 3. Well, what's the absolute value of negative 2? Absolute value of negative 2 is going to be 2. All right. 2 squared, well, what's 2 times 2? That's 4. All right, so now we've got that negative symbol out in front. We're going to say y is equal to negative 4 plus 3. All right, and then negative 4 plus 3, we can also think of that as 3 minus 4. And we're going to say y is equal to negative 1. All right, so we input 6, we get an output of y being equal to negative 1. And so the cool thing about this, since they're spaced evenly apart from each other, this is 1 away from 7, this is 1 away from 7, we're going to get the same output. So I get the same exact output, it's the mirror image, it's the same distance away. Those are going to be some other coordinates that we're going to use. All right, and let's test one of the last values that we really want to graph out, which is going to be this 5. Okay, you could do 9 if you wanted to, but I just want to do 5. I think it's going to be easier. Okay, so let's say y is equal to negative absolute value of 2 times 5 minus 14 squared plus 3. Okay, 2 times 5 is going to give me 10. 10 minus 14, that's going to get me a negative 4. We're going to say absolute value squared plus 3. All right, well, what is the absolute value of negative 4? Absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Okay, 4 squared is going to get us 16, and that negative symbol out in front is going to make it a negative. Okay, we're going to say negative 16 plus 3. Well, what's negative 16 plus 3? That's going to give us a negative 13. Okay, let's come back up here. Input 5, we get an output of negative 13. Input 9, get an output of negative 13 once again. And now let's just draw out our graph. Let's get a better marker. See if I got it. Yeah, I like that more. And maybe it's about the same. Okay, every single one of these is going to be worth 2. That's what we're going to say. We're going to say, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, okay, negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, so on. All right, so I'm going to go and graph it out. I got to find where I'm going to graph my vertex at first, which is going to be at 7, 3. So I go to 2, 4, 6, 7, and I get an output of 3. And I know this is going to be curling down. So now I want to go to 6, 1. Okay, I go to 6, and I'm going to have an output of negative 1. So we're going to have a dot right about here, right about here. Okay? And then lastly, the 5 and the 9 are mirror images. Okay? So 2, 4, and then we're going to have 5 and a negative 13. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and a negative 13, right? We go to that mirror image, which is going to be the 9, like we said. It's over here. And we just curl it down. Okay? We graph out our points, tell our audience where our curve is at, and that's it. Okay? That's how you would solve a parabola involving an absolute value. So